How's it going, everybody? This is Ask Me Anything About Politics. So, if you got any questions about politics, just let me know in the chat, and I will do my best to give you a great answer. I know that politics can be really intimidating when you're first trying to learn about it, so this is the place where you can ask all of your questions about politics. Doesn't matter how simple or easy you think it is. There's not going to be any judgments or roasting or debating here. I am just here to answer all of your good faith questions about politics. I know that politics can be really intimidating when you're first trying to learn about it. It can be like trying to learn a new language because there's all these different three-letter agencies, and we refer to people just by their last names sometimes, and we just throw around words like filibuster and reconciliation and continuing resolution. And it's like, if you don't know what those words are, it can be really difficult to kind of get your head around what's going on in the government and what the various agencies do and what are these people's jobs and stuff like that. And so there's all this misinformation and propaganda on the internet. It can be really difficult to slice through that and see like what's actually going on. So this is the place where you can ask all of those questions, and there's no roasting, there's no judgment, there's no debating. It is just good faith questions to all of your good faith answers. And this is not one of those shows where I call people up and I yell at them for having different political beliefs than me. I'm not here to debate anybody. I'm not here to get into fights with anybody. I'm just here to answer all your good faith questions, you know? So I don't care who you voted for. I don't care if you're further to the left than me or further to the right than me. It is just going to be answering your questions as sincerely and nicely as I can muster, you know. And maybe you're somebody on the right and you've always wanted to ask somebody on the left a question like, hey, why are you guys like this? I keep on hearing on the news that you guys are like this. And you can, I got, you're, this is a real life Democrat here that you can ask that question to. And User bunch number says, I have learned so much from you. Thank you, user bunch numbers. That means a lot to me. Can you tell me something? Tell me what I helped you to learn or understand. So yeah, and maybe you are somebody who's like a progressive like me, but you're frustrated and disappointed with the Democratic Party, and you're like, Jarrett, why do you still think the Democratic Party is the move? Like, why is that? You know, you can ask me that question. I'm not going to fight anybody. I'm not going to get mad at you for asking your questions. I'm not going to judge you for whatever question you asked. You know, Tennis Love 456 was, what is your education? I got my bachelor's degree, college graduate. Thank you for your question, Tennis. All right. So, yeah, this is where you can ask all your questions about politics. I'm not here to fight or roast or debate. I am just here to answer your questions, you know? So I don't care. You don't got to worry about, oh my God, if I ask this, he's going to think I'm some sort of MAGA person, or oh, if I ask this, he's going to think I'm some sort of libtard person. There's no judgments here no matter what. So you don't have to worry about the phrasing of your question or anything. Just if you ask it, I will answer it. And there's no judgment, roasting, ridicule, or debate. Demater78 says, it doesn't matter who is president. What's happening in the Middle East is biblical. First of all, that's not a question, Demater. And if you don't ask questions, then you get blocked. But I'll give you a warning here. And also, it does matter who's president because the president has a ton of power, both in what they can do in foreign affairs and where immigration is concerned. Staffing various agencies is important. Controlling the cultural narrative is important. So yeah, of course, who the president does matter. Tennis Love says, "In what major did you get your degree?" It was a liberal arts college, so it was like a little bit of everything. David Campbell says, "Hey, Shell says, are we going to war? We will probably not declare war on Iran, but we will most likely have like some. We will be assisting Israel in their war, is my prediction. But you know, you should never make your decisions based on the political predictions of pundits, whether they are on the left or the right." David Campbell says, "How soon do you think we'll be in World War III?" I don't think World War III is going to happen. Tank says, "Do you think we're going to war?" Wow, everybody just wants to know about what's going on with Iran. My goodness, that is. I mean, everybody is concerned, and that is correct. You guys are correct to be concerned about this. Let's see here. Consciousness is Rising says, presidents have a boss. They do. The voters are their boss. Demater78 says, sorry, what do you think about the Canada situation? I'm not all up to speed with what's going on in Canada. I'm glad that the Liberal won as opposed to Paul Revere, because that guy was real Trumpy, you know. But yeah, I mean, I hope that things are going good up there in Canada. D. Whipple says, for or against the protest? I mean, I am for Americans having the right to protest so long as it is peaceful. And, you know, if you're referring to the most recent No Kings protest, not only am I in favor of it because it's protected First Amendment speech to protest, but also I believed in the message behind the No Kings protest, and that is why I participated. All right. Tennis Love says, what do you think the Ninth Circuit will decide on martial law in California? I mean, that's an open question. I'm not really sure. The Supreme Court kind of struck down Trump's ability to mobilize the military, the National Guard in California, but you know, I'm not really a lawyer, but based on the lawyers that I have talked to, there are still appeals happening, and it's kind of like going up and down the judicial ladders. We just kind of have to wait and see what's going to happen. Tank says, I'm just scared of getting drafted. I think that you're right to be scared, but I also don't think that like even the most, you know, hawkish Republicans in power right now are not eager to put American soldiers' boots on the ground. I think much more likely we're just going to see assistance, you know, with sending them weapons, sending them money, and using our aircraft carriers to shoot down projectiles going into Israel. Megarian says, I think all politicians should have terms. I mean, they do have terms. I think what you mean is term limits. And I agree. Term limits are a good thing, I think. Shell says, what about China? If we get USA get involved, does China have something to do with Iran? It's interesting because as Trump has exercised his kind of like isolationist agenda and started a trade war of America versus the world, and removed American aid agencies like USAID from other countries, China has stepped in. And, you know, it is one of the reasons why I was advocating against the Trump presidency, because now this position that we had on the world stage that used to be very powerful is now being taken over by China. And now China is fucking kicking our ass in green technology and global what's the word I'm looking for? Charity, and you know, just like building schools and hospitals and wells and shit like that. And so now all of that goodwill that America had is now going to China. I don't 100% know where they would fall, like on the spectrum of, are they going to be more pro-Israel or pro-Iran in that conflict? My guess is that they will just kind of like take whatever is the opposite position that America has, because they're kind of positioning themselves as the sort of like proxy foil in all of these American wars. Like they're supporting Russia in the Russia-Ukraine situation. You know, it's yeah, that's my guess, but you know, that's not my specialty, I would say. Night Bandit says, let's talk about how politically double-cheeked up I am right now. All right, is it a lot? Joni Calder says, what countries back Iran? Oh, I'm not 100% on that, Jody, so sorry about that. Dan Blackroyd says, voluntary enlistment in our military still far exceeds the deficit needed to trigger the draft. Well, I guess that's good news, I guess. Divided Nation says, do you support America or Israel? America. Tennis Love 456 says, how is RFK doing as health secretary in your opinion? Terrible. He is making us less healthy. We're more in danger of dying of preventable illnesses. He has defunded and gutted the parts of the government that are in charge of vaccines. Like, you know, we're not gonna be up on this, you know. And come the fall, when everybody's supposed to be re-upping on their flu vaccines and shit like that, and people that are having kids are going to be wanting to vaccinate their kids, like those resources are no longer available. Additionally, reporting is not available. You know, he's not doing anything about bird flu. You know, like fucking that disease is just going to be let to run rampant and continue to mutate and shit like that. It's fucking infuriating. He is a terrible administrator of health and human services. He is fucking up 24/7. Stranger Danger says, are you familiar with the Fairness Act? Do you think repealing it led to the division in America? Yes. I don't know. I thought it was called the Fairness Doctrine, but maybe I'm wrong about that. I do think that kind of opened the door for the kind of extreme right-wing rhetoric news channels that we then saw afterwards. You know, Fox News started after that happened. Now that the genie is out of the bottle, I don't know if that would reinstated the Fairness Doctrine, if it would go back to normal after that. But I also don't think that was like the one piece of the domino that caused all that to happen. I think that was just like one tiny piece of the pie. If you read the book Dark Money by Jane Mayer, she goes into excruciating detail in the ways that the billionaire class have been manipulating American culture and education and news for a long time in order to spread propaganda narratives that convince people to either vote for Republicans or not vote at all. James Fraley says, disagree. That's not all true. I'm not really sure what you mean. What do you think was not true that I said, James? Easton Black says, are you MAGA? No. CJ says, Trump our pizza. All right, don't know what that means. Divided Nation says, we need to separate ourselves from Israel, regain America, our country back. I mean, I think that Israel has been a really terrible ally to America, and they've been a terrible actor on the world stage. Netanyahu is guilty of doing war crimes, so I agree that we 100% should separate ourselves from Israel. Tennis Love 456 says, do you think Trump will try to stay in office in 2028? Yes. 100%. This is a prediction that I feel extremely confident in. I don't know how he's going to try to do it. If he's going to declare martial law and try to cancel elections. I don't know if he's going to petition the Supreme Court or the Republican Congress to give him a waiver to run for another term. But it is his singular desire to be president until he dies, and then potentially hand the presidency down to his kids, like he's a fucking king handing the throne down to his children. Ignacio Lopez says, penny being removed from circulation, will it affect our currency? I don't think so. It'll probably be, just like better in the long run as far as, not wasting taxpayer dollars producing a coin that nobody wants to have. Call of Duty Mobile says, Trump is the best. No, he's not. And also, that's not a question, so you're out of here. I don't care if you have different opinions than me, but actually ask a question, be part of the conversation. JK says, we're leaving the gold standard a mistake. JK, I love that question. I am not equipped to answer it. I'm so sorry about that. CJ Ewing 45 says, how do people think that gas prices are at their all-time lowest when they have never been higher? Propaganda, CJ. There are people in the news media, on social media, telling people that gas prices are at their lowest, and telling people that egg prices are at their lowest, and that everything is sunny and rosy now that Trump is around, and anything that's not sunny and rosy is the fault of Democrats or trans kids or immigrants. It's all propaganda. Justin Wallace says, what is the possibility of World War III? I think it's unlikely that we will have a full-scale world war, but I do believe that global tensions will continue to become more and more inflamed throughout the Trump administration because they're asleep at the wheel. We don't have diplomacy happening. We don't have a real Secretary of State. Marco Rubio's got like 4 jobs right now. Pete Hegseth is driving the fucking Department of Defense into the fucking ground. Tulsi Gabbard's doing jack all as far as intelligence is concerned. They have an agenda, and they're trying to use the intelligence agency to push that agenda. She's already fired somebody for saying the intelligence does not match the shit that you're saying. And she was like, well, find me some intelligence that does match the shit that I'm saying. And he said, that doesn't exist. And then she fired him. We are less safe. The world is less safe. Nobody's doing the work of actually trying to put out all these fires right now. Hey, it's Debbie X says, do you think Republicans in Congress will step up? Probably not. You'll never lose money always betting on elected Republicans doing the wrong thing. I'm skeptical that they will ever stand up to Trump in a, substantive way. Macromind says the only fires are ones that are manufactured by the neocons. That is inaccurate, Macromind. The Dave says, us is safe. And I don't think so. Tyga says, do you think Vance can carry the Trump throne? I do not. He has all of the charisma of a fucking piece of drywall. The 2 Republicans that I'm worried about are Tucker Carlson and Josh Hawley. Josh Hawley is trying to paint himself as a populist by putting forward a bill to raise the minimum wage, which the Democrats have been fighting for a really long time. And if people just fucking give Republicans the credit for that, I'm going to lose my fucking mind. So Josh Hawley put forward a bill to raise the minimum wage $15. He's constantly in these Senate hearings saying, grilling billionaires and CEOs, but it's all fucking bullshit. Like, he's a Republican, like he is going to pass tax cuts for the rich. He is going to deregulate industry so that they can just fucking, pollute our air and water and shit like that. And, Tucker Carlson, he's already built up this, fan base through the media as, he's used to being in front of the camera, and he's used to talking in front of people. So those are the 2 that I'm most worried about. Macromind says you should be more afraid of Ted Cruz. No, everybody hates Ted Cruz. Like, literally everybody does. Raina MF Pursley says, as a Missouri blue voter, my red relatives even wanted Holly out too. Interesting. All right, well, maybe I'm wrong about Holly, but I just don't like the way that he is positioning himself. It gives me concerns. Lisa Salas, hey, right back at you. Vivid Pride says, what does the Democratic Party have to do in order to win the midterms in 2026? So Vivid Pride, this is a great question. So number one, polling right now says that the Democrats have a really good chance of winning the House, and it's unlikely that they will regain control of the Senate. But the way that you phrased your question was, what do Democrats have to do? And here's the thing. It is very important that we don't just sit around and wait for the Democrats to do X, Y, or Z to win the midterm elections. We need to do the work to win the Democratic Party the midterm elections. Because it's not about supporting them. It's about having a better government for us. And the Democratic Party will do that. And so when you work for the Democratic Party, you're not doing them a favor. You're doing us a favor. So yeah, what are the Democrats going to do to try to win the midterms? I don't know. Their best, I guess. But we have to do the work. We have to talk to people. We have to convince them to go out and vote in the midterm elections. That is how we get out of this fucking authoritarian quagmire. Cheek Spreader says, what time is the cheek spread? You tell me, Cheek Spreader. Donnie said, is Newsom a realistic candidate in 28? Or does he care about people too much? Does he care about people too much is fucking a hilarious potential criticism of Newsom. He's 100% a viable candidate. A lot of people are talking about him as the de facto nominee. He's doing everything that he can to position himself as a popular centrist who has stood up to Trump. He's handsome. He's a white man. He's tall. He's a good communicator. So yeah, he's not my first choice, but he's 100% a viable candidate. Pie Man says, what happened? Why has politics changed so much? Because billionaires have put a lot of money into making politics worse. They have been spreading propaganda. They have been taking control of all of our information sources. It is entirely their fault. This is a consequence of their making. They did this. They have gotten exactly what they wanted, where people are fighting amongst themselves and they are slurping up conspiracy theories and propaganda and misinformation like it's fucking something that people really enjoy eating. Donnie says, I say Newsom and Trump debate on pay-per-view. The winner uses the money for their campaign. I mean, I don't know. There's no debating Trump. He's a liar, and he's, he just makes shit up, and he talks over people, and, it's not, there's nothing productive in modern day political debates. Lisa Salas says, I don't understand why people vote against their own interests. Stop voting Republican. It's because of propaganda, Lisa. They're being convinced that their vote for Republicans is the right move. And there are many different flavors of this propaganda, depending on what kind of person you are. They'll try to fit something for your vibe. And so that is the reason why we have to do the work of spreading the truth and making sure that people are activated to vote against the Republican Party. Donnie says, how about instead of a debate, they take a citizenship test where they answer the questions live? That would expose him. Or, Tyra, very funny. There's no getting Trump, there's no getting him to confess to something on video or something that is going to have any sort of political effect. We've seen this time and time again where he admits to crimes or he says something grossly racist or unethical or misogynistic or whatever, and everybody goes, all right, we got him. It's game over. That's the end of the Trump administration. And then it just never happens, we can't expect that to be the thing that brings Donald Trump down. What's going to bring him down is people like you and me doing the work. User a bunch of numbers says, do you think they will abolish property tax for seniors? I haven't seen that in any of the tax proposals, user. I'm not sure. Trigger Monkey says, registered Democrat voting for Trump here. Invite me up. No, thank you, Trigger Monkey. But if you ask a question, I will answer it in good faith. Donnie says, but making him look like an absolute fool is the best we can do, I think. No, Donnie, that is not the best we can do. The best we can do is what I call the work. Talking to people in real life, talking to your friends, your family, your neighbors, your coworkers, making sure that they are not stuck in any propaganda loopholes, making sure that they are registered to vote, that they know that they have all their documentation depending on what state they live in, and that they are prepared and excited to vote for Democrats. And then once they are at that point, then you recruit them to do that work themselves as well. That is how we win the midterm elections. That is how we take down Donald Trump. Trigger Monkey says scared. No, I just think the debates are stupid. But again, ask a question or I'm going to block you. Caleb Parker says you still haven't answered me. What are your thoughts on Israel's influence on both sides? I do not believe that it is productive, good for America, happening in good faith, and there are different motivations for why the various political parties, acquiesce to everything that Israel wants them to do. I'm not 100% sure why the Democratic Party acquiesces so much. Maybe they're worried about all the money and funding that AIPAC has, and they're worried about primaries. Maybe they are worried about appearing anti-Semitic to Jewish Americans because that is a tool that AIPAC uses. They say that if you go against them, then you're an anti-Semite. And part of the Democratic coalition is Jewish Americans, so that would be losing a very valuable voting bloc. For Republicans, it has a little bit more to do with they're the white people in the region, and they want to support a group of white people. There's also some Republican politicians that believe that once Israel takes over that entire area, then the rapture will happen, and we'll all get to go meet Jesus. I mean, the good people will get to go meet Jesus. The rest of us will have to live on earth, which will become hell. So yeah, it's toxic. It's not great. Republicans are worse on this issue. Short version. Trigger Monkey says primaries don't matter to Democrats. They just want to install whoever they want. Congratulations, Trigger Monkey. I gave you a chance. You blew it, and you're out of here. Andy Treadway says, do you think we should allow Iran to have nukes? Well, it's difficult. We should do everything that we can to keep them from getting nukes, but we don't get to decide if Iran gets nukes. They are a sovereign nation. And so we can try our best. We can declare war on them. We can have financial incentives. We can have some sort of a nuclear peace treaty that we, like the Obama administration negotiated with Iran back in the day that would have kept them from getting a nuclear weapon that then Trump threw in the garbage. And now he's desperately trying to negotiate something similar right now, But yeah, we should try to keep everybody from getting nuclear weapons. They are not great. Okay, Mr. Redneck says, should we allow Iran? Who are we to allow Iran anything? Yeah, like I said, Mr. Reddick. Justin Wallace says, why is Israel and Iran fighting? So the tensions around Israel in the Middle East are massive and have been going on for a very long time. It's fucking Hatfields and McCoys where, these different groups of people have been fighting each other for so long, and people write entire books about like, all right, this group of people did this thing and this group of people did this thing, which angered this group of people. And then this group of people they give money to, and then blah, blah, blah. It's a fucking quagmire. What's I think important to consider when you are looking at the turmoil in the Middle East is this. Israel is sort of like America's proxy nation in the Middle East. We send them a ton of money. We send them weapons, and they have been a bad faith actor in that region for a long time under extreme right-wing authoritarian rule like Benjamin Netanyahu. They have been throwing stones at their neighbors. They have been annexing territory in Palestine and treating Palestinian citizens like second-class citizens. They have done war crimes. And as they have been doing all of that, and as they have been kind of like helping America advance its interests, they have inflamed tensions with all of their neighbors. And so their neighbors have, over the years, become more and more anti-Israel and anti-America because they are viewing them as, the reason why things are going difficult in their areas. And so, you find more and more extremist governments popping up in those areas because they're just pissed off at Israel. This is a very dumbed down version of the whole conflict, by the way. So, take this with a grain of salt. So yeah, right now, what Israel is doing is trying to take advantage of the fact that Donald Trump is going to let them do whatever the fuck they want. And so they've escalated tensions with Palestine and Hamas. They have escalated tensions with Iran. They are doing everything that they can to drag America into a big war in the Middle East so that Israel can take over that entire area. That is what Netanyahu and his right-wing psychopath ideologues want in the Israeli government. Tim Spahn says, why did Obama send Iran $1.5 billion in cash? So, Tim, that is a specific phrasing of that question. Sounds like you got that from right-wing propaganda. So I don't know where you got that number from. I don't know how accurate it is. I do know that Iran benefited financially from the Iran nuclear deal that they negotiated with the Obama administration. And that was a deal that was very beneficial to the globe. You know, we were going to stop Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. We were massively delaying their enrichment program, and we were finally working with them to deflate tension in that region. They were some financial incentives. I don't know what the deal is of that. I'm pretty sure it's not how you described it, though. And then Trump threw that in the garbage. So they got all that money, and then they didn't have to uphold their end of the deal because Trump threw the deal in the garbage for no fucking reason. Let's see here. Joy Rosa Spina says Trump is going to put us all in danger. I got bad news for you, Joy. We're already there. You are already in danger, girl. The Beagles that own us says, and if you say anything against them, they cry anti-Semitism. That is also accurate. All right. The Beagles that own us says the problem is this current president does foreign policy via social media. I mean, there's a lot of problems with this current president. That is, just the tip of the iceberg right there. Mr. Redneck says, I forgot that only Israel's allowed to have nuclear weapons that aren't allowed to have or disclose. I mean, we didn't, I would love for Israel not to have nuclear weapons also. I'm not really sure what you're making of that. Donnie says, I haven't heard anything recently, but is Clown Boy still trying to figure out how he can run for another term? I mean, he is. I don't know what's going on in the administration, but he is. I would bet everything that he is going to do something to try to stay in office past the end of his term. All right, scrolling down to the bottom of the comments. Zachary says, how close are we really to nuclear war? I don't know. I don't know. I am concerned about bad faith actors with nuclear weapons. I don't believe that America, unprovoked, will start shooting off nukes anytime in the near future. But, there are religious zealots who are in control of nuclear weapons and bad faith dictators who are in charge of nuclear weapons. So, yeah, could Russia, North Korea, Israel do something with their nukes at some point in the near future? Like, I don't know. It's a really scary time to be living. Justin Jordan said, so is this the comedy portion? Nope. Waylon is better said, I want us to send Iran to smithereens. But there's like 92 million people who are living there. Like, aren't you concerned about those people who just want to live their fucking lives? Brian says, you're too biased. Why ask questions? You're just going to bash opposing views. No, I won't. Brian, if you think that I'm you don't like the things that I'm saying, my man, like, ask me a question. I will happily prove to you how open-minded and in good faith I can be. Desert Runner says, crazy, both parties have billionaires. Nothing ever changes. They stay rich, we stay poor. Desert Runner, that is inaccurate. So both parties do have billionaires, but the Republican Party has more billionaires. And their billionaires give them a lot more money. And they use their money in sneaky ways, like flooding social media with propaganda. Taxes go up for the wealthy under Democratic administrations, but not by a lot, but a little. And taxes go down for the billionaires during Republican administrations by a lot. So there is a massive difference based on who is in charge, what their policies are, who the billionaires are really supporting. Let's see here. But thank you for your statement there, Desert Runner. That is one of my favorite things to talk about. Italian Joey says, yo, are you a Trump supporter or Kamala? I mean, I don't support Trump. I'm a Democrat. Waylon is better says, what about the Israelis? Iran is bombing their cities, ? So yes, it is accurate that the people that are living in Israel are under threat right now from projectiles coming in from Iran and from projectiles coming in from Palestine being fired at them from Hamas. There is a difference, though, in military capability, meaning because of the Iron Dome that Israel has, they are much more better equipped to stop things that are coming at Israel than Iran or Palestine are at stopping things that are going into their countries. That's number one. Number two is, for a long time, Israel has been the more powerful actor in that region. So in my opinion, it has been incumbent upon them to do the work of creating peace. It's really easy when you are the weaker party to be there shouting like, let's stop fighting. And then the big guys just keeps on punching you, just being like, yeah, stop fighting us. Really, what's necessary is to do your defense while also reaching out with your other hand, reaching out with an olive branch. And that is something that Israel has very much not been doing for a long time. So, I put a lot of blame on the Israeli government for these tensions that exist, particularly the right wing, of the Israeli government, people like Netanyahu, and I think the dude's name is Ben Gvir. User a bunch of numbers says, but Israel is always being attacked by the animal neighbors surrounding it. User a whole bunch of numbers. Please don't refer to other people as animals. It's dehumanizing. It's bad for the rhetoric. It's bad rhetoric for the culture. You know, they are people just like you and me, and they just want to live their fucking lives in peace. And yeah, why are they being shot at though? You know, like you could play this game until the fucking cows come home of, well, they did this. And then the other people go, we only did that because you did this. And then they go, well, we only did that because you did this, blah, 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 blah. The way that we stop the fighting is we stop the fighting. And whoever is the most powerful person, whoever has the ability to decimate the other person the most, that is the person that needs to be the first actor, the big actor, you know, because they're the ones that are in control, basically. Italian Joey says, okay, do you support abortion? I do. I'm pro-choice, but even if you're pro-life, you should not vote for Republicans because they're doing nothing to actually decrease the number of abortions. Making abortion illegal doesn't actually decrease the number of abortions. It only makes abortion more dangerous for women. Being pregnant, more dangerous for women. Sorry about that. Andy Treadway says, they are both wrong, been fighting for thousands of years. Yeah, you know, but again, the more powerful of the two parties that are wrong should be the one that is more responsible for creating peace, in my opinion. Desert Runner says, most people don't know, but Iran was literally like us in the 1960s. Yeah, that is accurate. Mr. Squat says, is there anything that we people can do to fight against this war? Yes, Mr. Squat, there is. So there's a thing that I call the work, which if you want more specifics on it, you should go to my Discord channel. It's linked in my bio. It's a whole bunch of things, and I just use the shorthand the work whenever I'm talking about it on my live streams. But if you don't want America to be involved in this war with Iran, there are a lot of things that you can do as a citizen. You can put political pressure on your elected representatives, especially if they are Republicans. That's going to be it's going to have a lot more juice to it. You can start political action groups. If you go to the website Indivisible, they have handbooks available for free that'll teach you how to do that. You can join other groups that are already doing this work, like Indivisible, like Run for Something, like Vote Save America. You can boycott. You can go on strike. You can try to get more Democrats elected in the midterms because Democrats are going to be the ones to stop this from escalating. Mayor of the Internet, good to see you again. Says, I support the hot dogs, though. Am I a bad person? No, hot dogs are good, I suppose. Desert Runner says, the regime should be eliminated, not the people. Spare the people. I mean, yeah, but we also, regime change, we don't have a great record with regime change in American foreign policy. All right. Tyro Pillar says, my sources say Iran got the money from the sanctions relief, but unfrozen assets, but I'm just a dude on the internet. Yeah, again, whatever that dude said was, wildly inaccurate. So, what do you got? Italian Joey says, why do people protest? I feel like it doesn't help at all. So, Italian Joey, protests are a very valuable form of civic engagement. There are a lot of things that protests do, but it is limited. Like, you can't just do protests. You have to do like a bunch of other things as well. You have to vote, you have to strike, you have to boycott, you have to call your representatives, you have to form political action groups. You don't have to do everything. You just have to do a little bit, and you got to recruit other people to do the work as well, because the more people that do the work, the more impactful it is. But as far as like what do protests accomplish, they communicate our displeasure to the people that are currently in power. They show people that they're not alone. It's easy to form political action groups when you go to a protest because you're suddenly surrounded by like-minded people. And it can be really scary to live in times like this where the government is acting so authoritarian and unethically and immorally. And so doing something, going out and being counted, screaming when people say things that you agree with, and booing when you say things that you disagree with, it makes you feel like you are accomplishing something, and that can give you the kind of relief that you need to sort of like square up and get back into the fight. Because sometimes people get so despondent by just reading the news all fucking day and not knowing like what they can do, then they just crawl up into a little ball and just wait for the apocalypse to happen. And protest is one tool that we have. to engage with people, to lift people's spirits, to get attention on certain issues. You know, like that was covered by the news, the fact that it was the largest single day of protest in American history. Yeah, you know, it is important. It's not everything, but it is 100% important. But thank you for your question, Italian Joey. Let's see here. Desert Runner says, I mean, let them elect their own politicians. I agree. Banda Boss says, good Banda Boss, good to see you again. How would you balance environmental protection with economic growth? Growth wanted to ask you before, but had no chance. I thought I answered this question from you yesterday, Banda Boss. So environmental protection is part of economic growth. Like if you look at the investments that we've made in green technology during the Biden administration, like that was revitalizing small towns that had been abandoned by fossil fuel industry and fucking what do you call it, the automotive closures and plant closures and shit like that. So yeah, you know, it's not a zero sum game where you have to kneecap the economy in order to have, you know, good environmental protections. Like you can do both. You know, they work hand in hand. The reason why they called the Green New Deal the Green New Deal was because it was exactly that. It was changing our economy so that it could grow better and also safer. Maria Din says, if you don't protest it, you are accepting what is wrong by not doing anything against it. That's you know, I wouldn't totally agree with that, Maria. Like you can not protest but do other things. If you're the kind of person that is always talking to your friends, your family, your neighbors, your coworkers, you're pulling them out of propaganda holes, you're making sure that they have everything they need to go vote in the midterms, you're making sure that everybody's prepared to vote for Democrats and excited to vote for Democrats, and you're recruiting those people to be part of the fight as well, but you just don't go to protests, you're doing great, you know? Panda Boss says, oops, really? Yeah, that's fine, though. You know, saying it the second time helped me to say it a little bit more, what do you call it? A little bit more cogently. Let's see here. Sempra Supra says, no, it wasn't. That's a lie. I don't know what you mean by that, Sempra Supra. The largest protest didn't even break 20,000 people, and it had a pride parade. Sempra Supra, the No King's Day protest that happened this past weekend, had an estimated crowd size of anywhere from 5 million to 10 million people. And it is being widely reported as the largest single day of protest in American history. So I don't know where you're getting your news from, but I would suggest you get them from other sources because I'm looking at the data right now. You guys didn't even break 500,000. Well, first of all, we have no idea who the fuck you are. You could be making this shit up. I don't know what sources you're looking at. It could be wildly inaccurate. And in fact, I would go so far to say as it is wildly inaccurate, you know? There were 100. Yeah, Sempra, if you don't ask a question, I'm getting rid of you because all you're doing is spreading misinformation and propaganda. Italian Joey says, what do you think can be effective path forward to ensure affordable health care for all Americans? Italian Joey, it's universal health care. Like our current healthcare system is more expensive than universal health care would be. And I'm not saying it would be easy to switch over to universal health care, but it would be cheaper. And that would bring healthcare costs down just by itself. All right, Sempra, congratulations. You were warned, and you did not heed my warning, so now you are out of here. Scott Clower, insurance companies are useless middlemen. That is completely accurate. But thank you for all your you've been great, asking great questions today, Italian Joey. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the live stream, everybody. My name is Jared. I answer questions about politics. I'm not here to fight you. I'm not here to debate you. I'm not here to roast you. So you can ask me anything that you like, and I will give you a good faith answer. Perhaps you are somebody who has always wanted to ask a Democrat a question because all you've heard about them is from Fox News, and so you think we're all just like dancing naked in the woods with horns on our head and covering our bodies with the blood of the innocent, and that's just not the case. So you can talk to a real left Democrat right here. Reckless Ambivalence says, if you don't protest, democracy is a majority rules game. The majority voted for Trump because the other option was voting for someone supported by the American left. If Trump's a fascist, you live in a willfully fascist nation because the other option was the American left. These protests are an attempt to undermine those votes, which is like the opposite of democracy. I do not think that is accurate at all, Reckless Ambivalence. It seems to me as though you are using cognitive, what's the fucking word I'm looking for? You are using misleading arguments to push your agenda, you know, because what you are describing as people protesting trying to undermine other voters is those people are voters too. You know, the people that are protesting are also voters. Those people also have a say. Just because Trump won the election doesn't mean that people on the American left have no say going forward. I could talk for hours just about all the things that I disagree with in that post, my man. But if you're in good faith, I'll engage with you. If you just keep on pushing your agenda, then I'm not going to engage with you, my man. That's not what we do here. We try to have conversations. We try not to fight and have debates. Alrighty, Italian Joey says, what was your thoughts on the January 6th incident in 2020, and did it go too far or what? So it is clear to me that January 6th was an attempted coup orchestrated by Donald Trump and his supporters. It was an extremely violent day. Our elected representatives needed to be, needed to fucking take an escape hatch to get away from violent protesters. There were people there that had zip ties with the intention of like taking them hostage and potentially doing them physical harm. And this was all because Donald Trump wanted to stay in office. He was trying to overthrow the government. I don't know if you watched any of the January 6th hearings, but the evidence was damning and substantial. If you ever want me to get into more specifics about like what was done and what was said on January 6th, I would love to do that. I'm happy to do that. But short version is, it was a coup attempt, and I blame the people in power more than I blame the people that actually perpetrated the coup. I am Nick says, I would vote for Trump if change for $1 million. Elon Musk was giving away $1 million. Of course he won. We're all free in the USA. I'm not really sure what your vibe is, I'm Nick, but ask a question or I'm going to boot you. Mr. Squats says, protesting somebody's point of view on one thing does not mean protesting the entire country. That is accurate, Mr. Squats. Sleepless says, what do you think about the comptroller being arrested by more masked men? It is fucking authoritarian schnazi shit that the Trump administration has been arresting and charging Democrats and people that disagree with him on fucking fraudulent bases. It's fucking terrifying. It should be activating every one of us to go out there and do the work of stopping this illegal, immoral, unethical, unconstitutional administration. It's fucking bananas, guys. This is banana republic shit. The people in power throwing their political rivals in jail, like, my jaw is on my fucking chest that this has happened so many fucking times. I can't even remember all the people that they've arrested or thrown in jail. There was a judge, there was a couple of senators and a House member, and now this dude, what's his name? The comptroller from New York, Lander, I think his name is. Man, it's fucking terrifying. And the fact that they're incentivizing their voters to go and do violence. And a state senator of Minnesota was fucking assassinated, and his wife, and 2 others were fucking shot by the same dude, man. It's fucking terrifying. Like do the work, guys. This could be you next, Alrighty, scrolling on the bottom. Zachary, Italian Joey says, do you like JD Vance? I do not. He's a liar and a creep. Zachary says, do you believe Trump tries to postpone 2020 elections or finds a way to run again? He's going to do one of those 2 things, Zachary. And I'm honestly I don't really care which one he tries. It's just important that we all do the work to stop him no matter what he does. Mackenzie E. Shelton says, what do you think about the Supreme Court case regarding the senators' votes in Rockland, New York? Is it the Supreme Court? I thought it was the state courts that was doing that, Mackenzie. I don't know if there's been any new information that's come out about it, but it is interesting and concerning. It is the most substantive evidence that I have seen so far that votes were potentially changed in the 2024 election to give the election to Donald Trump. I'm waiting to see what happens with discovery. I'm waiting to see what happens with the case. But it is raising my eyebrow in a way that before I was poo-pooing, where I was like, we don't have any evidence that votes were changed. And now I'm like, Mackenzie Shelton says, I thought it was the New York Supreme Court. It might very well be, but when you said Supreme Court, I thought you meant like the federal Supreme Court. Alrighty, let's see here. All right, let's see here. Reckless Ambivalence says, I would be surprised if there's anyone who likes JD Vance. Yeah, I agree with you there, Reckless Ambition. See, this is what we do here, my man. We engage, we talk, we agree, we find common ground, So, ask a question, my man. Be part of the conversation. Because, I did not see your comments, and we're really light on activity today, so it's possible that your comment got booted by the TikTok gods. So maybe you said something inflammatory in there, my man. I know you, cuz you're a regular. I'm not just going to ignore your comments, my man. Zachary says, what happens if Elon lets it slip that he fixed the election? I figured they'd just try to bury that info. I think that the things that people in the Trump orbit say have exactly as much value as, fucking Confederate dollars. It doesn't matter what they say. They will just go back and say they didn't say it, or that's not what they meant. And then their fans will all get out there and say that's not what they meant. And then billionaires will pump tons of money into propaganda saying that's not what he said, or that's not what he meant, or you're missing the context, or blah, blah, blah. What's important are the things that we can prove. What's important are the things that they are doing. And I think we all need to pivot hard away from focusing on what they say. Cuz says, do you think anti-Semitism is understandable? I think any kind of prejudice it's understandable. It doesn't make it right, but it is understandable when, the billionaire class is flooding the airwaves with propaganda telling you that there's a group of people out there that's not them that's responsible for your problems. So whether it's women or minorities or immigrants or trans kids or Jewish people, it's understandable that people might buy what they're selling, especially if that group looks or acts or prays different than you. It is really easy for our kind of like lizard brain to attach onto that theory. But yeah, I don't think that it's right for people to be anti-Semitic, the same way I don't think it's right for people to be racist or misogynistic or homophobic. Sleepless says, wasn't a politician also fleeing politicians' locations on January 6th? I'm not really sure what you're asking there, Sleepless. Wasn't a politician also fleeing broadcasting locations on January 6th? I'm not really sure what I want to say Green or Boebert. They were broadcasting where the politicians were going. Yeah, I saw that reporting. I haven't been able to confirm it though, so I am loath to just continue to. I don't want to spread any conspiracy theories. But there was reporting that either Lauren Boebert or Marjorie Taylor Greene was giving insurrectionists a private tour of the Capitol the day before. There's reporting that there was like a little war room set up at like one of the Trump hotels with Roger Stone and shit like that. And I believe that Marjorie Taylor Greene or Lauren Boebert were tweeting out where elected representatives were to try to send the crowd there. But I don't know that for 100%. Daniel Galen says police officers were killed, lied by Trump supporters in January 6th. Yeah, they were killed. Carmine says, I'm watching One Live and saw an IG post go up on your page. Are you a clone? What? I don't know what you're talking about, my man. Tucker makes 6 that they did minor changes and rewired the machines. No way Kamala got 0 votes. Again, Tucker, that is what I saw from that story, but I am still waiting to see how that case shakes out, all right, HHD. I don't know if LeBron is going to run for president. But thank you for being here, everybody. Thank you for all the likes and the comments and the shares. I answer questions about politics, so if you got any questions about politics, just let me know in the chat. We got low numbers today, which the TikTok algorithm gods are frowning on us this afternoon, where normally we have higher numbers and more comments around this time. What's up, Mel? Thank you for all those blue hearts. I appreciate that. Carmine says, real reason why Trump pulled from the Iran deal, because Obama did it, and he was trying to undo all the things that Obama did because he hated him, because he doesn't like black people. But thank you for your question, Carmine. I appreciate you being here. All right, so yeah, if you got any questions about politics, just let me know. If things do not pick up, we might start wrapping things up, everybody. Sleepless says, do you think Harris will run again in the next election? I have no idea, Sleepless. That is exactly the kind of political prediction that I do not have any interest in making, have no faith in people that are making it, Let's see here. Carmine says, what do you know about CFAP? I actually don't know anything about CFAP. Anima, thank you for being here. I appreciate that. But I mean, we're kind of wrapping this up right now, so I appreciate all the likes and the shares and everything, but I don't want people to come into a party that is just ending. Cuz808 said, should kids be able to medically transition? So short answer, Cuz, yes. And here is why. I know that it feels innately wrong to allow a child to do something that drastic. Like I know the things that I was doing when I was 12, 14, 16, 18, up until the age of 30, I was doing dumb shit, that I should not have been able to. So why are we letting kids do something like that? Why would we advocate for kids doing something like that, And here's the reason why. When you dig into the numbers behind this, it is not that people are pressuring kids to do that. It is not that doctors are rushing kids through that process and being like, oh, you saying you're unhappy? Maybe you're a girl. Maybe I should chop off your wiener, a session like that. It is a slow, careful process that has, like various steps along the way and constant check-ins. And, we are seeing that when children go through that process, that they are living better lives, that they are becoming happier people, and they are doing better in life, doing less self-harm, staying alive more than they were without that care. And so, if there are, hospitals or doctors or schools that are trying to rush kids through that process, or just kind of lump and just, encouraging children to do that kind of thing, then yeah, that is 100% wrong. And we should call that out when we see it. I've seen articles that friends of mine who are more centrist or right wing will show me, like, look at this hospital. They were skipping steps because they were trying to get kids to get transition. I'm like, all right, well, I'm against that. But that's not all of what is going on with gender affirming care. Most of it is slow and careful and is being double checked and triple checked, and you're checking in with the kids as they go. All right, was that beneficial for you? Okay, maybe we want to think about doing this next step. That was beneficial for you? Okay, maybe we think about maybe we want to do this next step, Diego Vargas says, are we going to war with Iran? I think it is unlikely that we'll see boots on the ground. I think it is likely that we will supply Israel with money and weapons so that they can have a war with Iran. Cuz says, I would have to disagree, but I respect your opinion. What makes you disagree, Cuz? Hummingbird Zombie says, is nuclear energy the way of the future? I wouldn't say so. I think nuclear energy is probably the way that we get to the next stage of the future. There are scientists right now who are making nuclear fusion happen, which when we can scale it, will be a limitless source of free, safe, clean energy. We're not quite there yet, but they're already getting more energy out of it than they're putting into it, which is a huge step forward. Additionally, scientists have just made solar panels that are like 1,000 times more efficient than the most recent solar panels. I love nuclear energy for getting us off of fossil fuels. But there are definitely dangers and concerns with nuclear waste. It's been a little overblown, I think, but there are definitely dangers and concerns. And so we should wean ourselves off. We should use nuclear to wean ourselves off of. We should use nuclear to wean ourselves off of fossil fuels, and then we should use green technology and nuclear fusion to wean ourselves off of nuclear fission. Alrighty. Andy Treadway says, kinda sick. What does that mean? Who are you referring to? Sleepless says, heard a vague rumor that Matt Pat was getting into politics. Are you referring to my old roommate, Matt Pat, the guy that used to do improv at the UCB in New York? Sleepless, do I know you? Hummingbird Zone. Hummingbird Zombie says, do lingering fears from Chernobyl and Fukushima contribute to worry about nuclear energy? Absolutely. And, nuclear waste is also a concern. Braylon Smith 7 says, why do some people think war with Iran is the right move? There are people that are very hawkish. There are people who make a lot of money when we go to war. Like, the military industrial complex is a fucking thing. Raytheon makes a ton of money when we go to war, shit like that. And so those people put a lot of money into spreading that propaganda. And then there are people that are some people are just really hype about war. They're just like, I love it when America shoots their big guns and missiles and shit like that. Let's see here. Was the host of Game Theory? Oh, I don't know who that is. Sorry, Sleepless. I actually think that guy that I used to be roommates with was named Matt Pack and not Matt Pat. All right, everybody. Thank you for being here. If I don't get any other questions, I'm going to start wrapping things up. But please do the work, everybody. Please do the work. That is the only way that we get out of this. I got regulars on these live streams, I'm sure, who watch my show all the time. I hope that you guys are out there doing the work. I hope that you guys are checking out my Discord. I got a whole thread posted about what the work is. You don't have to do all of it, just do some of it and just do as much as you can. And it is vital that we recruit other people to do this work as well, because that is the only advantage that we have over the billionaire class, is us doing the work. If we don't get Democrats elected in the midterms en masse, then we are going to continue our fucking our slide into authoritarianism, our wildly accelerating slide into authoritarianism. Sleepless says, "Do you trust Midas Touch?" I don't know them all that well, but the things that I've seen of theirs, I have liked. Let's see here. Diego Vargas says, "Now Tucker sounds reasonable with this shit." I actually was talking to my wife about that last night, which was like, there does seem to me to be something sincere about Tucker Carlson not wanting to get into war. And I don't know what his actual motivations are. My wife was like, it's all fake bullshit because he's going to try to run for president and be the new anti-war Trump kind of a thing. And I find that argument to be pretty persuasive, but I'm also like, or he just doesn't want to go to war. Maybe that's just like, maybe that's part of his ethos, But it is fucking obnoxious to watch him finally asking tough questions to a Republican for once. And it's like, oh, so you did know how to do that. You just chose not to. Well, that's fun. It's the Rocketeer. Good to see you again. Says Generation Divide is me knowing who Matt Pat is, but not you. Now that you said game theory, I think I know who Matt Pat is, but I'm not 100% sure. Braylon Smith, has America actually been walked on by every other country? No, not the way that Republicans are saying, Braylon Smith, but now that Trump is in charge, we basically are. We're getting fucked on trade, we're getting fucked in technology. All of our scientists and our teachers and our doctors are fleeing. We're getting fucked. And Trump is is fucking dog walked by Putin and Netanyahu. It's embarrassing. It's shameless. It's bad for Americans. It's bad for the globe. Diego Vargas says, what can Democrats and Republicans do to limit POTUS's war powers? That is a really good question. God, somebody asked a similar. I was supposed to Google it yesterday. Someone was asking me a similar question yesterday. Because there's like the War Powers Act thing that they passed after 9/11 that gave the executive a lot more wiggle room as far as like doing, police actions and special military operations and shit like that. So I'm not 100% sure. I mean, they have the power. They have the power to stand up to Trump, but just Republicans won't in generally, Yeah, I don't know. The various mechanisms by which Congress could try to stop Trump, I'm a little less specific on, unfortunately. I know there are things they could do, but some of it would be like an escalating war potentially with Trump, where they pass something, he ignores it. They take it to court, they win in court, he ignores that, and then they got to start asking themselves some really hard questions, like are we this passionate about not going to war with Iran that we are willing to try to remove Trump from office, because he is going to put Republican politicians in that position. All right, everybody. I'm going to get out of here. Thank you for being here. Go to my website if you want to join my Patreon. Check out all my socials. Give me a follow. I am here Monday through Friday, starting around 11:30 a.m. Pacific time, 5 days a week on TikTok, on Twitch, and YouTube. So catch me back here tomorrow, same bat time, same bat channel. Thank you again for all your questions. Do the work. Do your self-care. That's part of the work. Be good to yourselves. Be good to everybody else. And I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Take care.